Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Lunch and Learn. I'm Lauren Smith with the International Franchise Association, and we have a great 30 minutes lined up for you. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that we are recording today's webinar and will make it available later this evening on community.franchise.org. If you have any questions for today's speakers, please add them to the chat box and they will be addressed toward the end. Today's topic is shifting from a development process to an award experience, and it is brought to us by the Entrepreneur Source. Here to provide today's discussion is Marissa Frois, CEO of the Entrepreneur Source, and Susan Stilwell, Business Development Strategist at the Entrepreneur Source. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to the Entrepreneur Source for sponsoring today's Lunch and Learn. I'll go ahead and turn things over to you.
Excellent. So welcome, everybody. I'm glad you were able to join us today. This is a topic that we're pretty passionate about, kind of really shifting that mindset from creating a development process to an awards experience, and really how important that is today, now than ever. Again, Entrepreneur Source, this is our contact information if you'd like to get a hold of us at any time. Again, my name is Susan Stilwell. I'm the Business Development Strategist here at the Entrepreneur Source, and I'm joined with Marissa Frois, who's our CEO, and we will be sharing some information with you today. So let's get started. We good, Marissa?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. I'm excited to be here. So let's go ahead and kick it off.
Excellent, excellent. So one of the things I want you to think about as we go through some of the information today is, how do you differentiate your brand? And we're actually going to give you some tools and resources to really start thinking about this. So more important today than ever to really stand out from the crowd. So when you think about your brand, if you were looking at a franchise directory and you went to your category where all of the brands that do something similar to what you do, and if you were to cover up all of the brand names and just looked at this descriptions of what's intriguing people to look at your brand, what would it say? And if it says things like, we have great training, we have great marketing, we have all of this great stuff, is it any different than what anybody else is listing in that directory? So you really got to start thinking about what truly differentiates you from your brand. What makes you stand out from the crowd? So we're gonna circle back to this in just a minute, but I kind of wanted to plant that seed as we start to go through some of our content today. Next slide, Marissa.
Yeah.
So again, what we're talking about today is how to shift from a development process to creating an amazing awards experience. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever read the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. If you haven't, it's a great read. I suggest you pick it up. But what Simon talks about is how great leaders inspire others to take action. And it's really important to always start with the client's why. And if you're not a reader, he's got a great 10-minute TED Talk. It's a great inspirational piece that kind of gets you into that right mindset. So again, really starting to make the shift. So why is that important, right? The days of the feature and benefit selling, really the blah, 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 yada, 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 people aren't hearing that anymore. What they really care about is the experience that you're creating. And we want the people that we're awarding our franchise to, right? And remember, the word is award. We should never sell a franchise, ever. We award them, and really making them understand that as much as you're looking, they're looking at you to see if they're a good fit, vice versa, right? We've got to bring in great franchisees into our system, and this is an awards experience. So the first thing you've got to do is you've got to know what those differentiators look like. You've got to go from a selling mindset to a coaching mindset, really creating that experience, because we want them to fall in love with their brand. And again, we want to make sure that they're making a good choice. One of the things that I tell people as I'm taking them through our awards experience is, look, we're going to be doing this together for 10 years. Let's make sure we really like each other, because at the end of the day, I'd rather squash your dream than take your money. We've got to make sure this is a good choice for you and your family. And by doing that, it really gives them permission to keep that open mind and really use that building block approach as you're really going through that. So Marissa, if you want to change the slide.
Yeah, got it.
So, one of the things I want you to really ask yourself, do you have a development process or do you have an awards experience? Now, I'm going to use a little Susan Stilwell potty mouth here. So if that offends you, plug your ears. But nobody gives a rat's ass about your sales process. They don't. All they care about is the experience that you're going to create from them. So if you have a checklist, right, and it's an assembly line, production line, uniform approach that everybody goes through to get through the different steps, you probably have a sales or development process. But if the experience is very genuine and authentic, the very first thing I ask my candidates when I first start to work with them is, what brought you here today? What's really inspired you to own your career and look into business ownership? It's all about them. I want to know what that looks like, because when you're investing in a business, it's very personal and it's authentic. And you want to understand what those motivators are from the very beginning, right? And you want to build that trust and relationship. If you're meeting with candidates and you're meeting with them for an hour and you're spilling all your candy in the lobby, and then you're giving them the world's scariest document, which I like to call the franchise disclosure document, you probably are not giving them a chance to really fall in love with you. So we want to make sure that you take a minute to take some time to look at that experience and what that looks like. And are you interactive with them? Are they really understanding the value of your franchise system and understanding those unique differentiators and really understanding what their life is going to look like, their income, their lifestyle, their long-term goals? Is your brand going to help them be able to transition into that? So, with kind of setting that stage, what I'd love to do is, Marissa, I'd love to hand it over to you to really talk about how massive the market is today.
Yeah.
There has never been a more beautiful time in franchising. It's super exciting. So, Marissa, I'll let you go over some of the data.
Yeah, no, thanks, Suze. Absolutely. I do want to spend just a couple minutes talking about the current job market and what that means for us as a franchise community. But Suze, as you were talking about creating that experience, the quote that actually came to mind is, at the end of the day, people won't remember necessarily what you said or did, but they're going to remember how you made them feel, right? So when you take a look at what kind of experience you're creating, and if it falls into that assembly line approach that Susan mentioned, there's really not a one size fits all checklist when you're dealing with human connections. And no matter how good you are at talking through that checklist, the client will feel that you're taking that approach. And it's just not the way you want them to feel about you or your brand at the end of the day. But looking at the current job market, so now more important than ever, the market of individuals transitioning out of a job is huge, and exploring business ownership. So right now, the Bureau of Labor Statistics tells us that by the end of 2023, more than 10.3 million people in the American workforce will be self-employed. That's actually up from 9.6% today. Personally, I also do believe that COVID has inspired people to take action. So we're seeing more people than ever before who are ready to really own their career by becoming self-employed. And that number just keeps growing and growing. And we find this to be the case for a few reasons. So I think challenge number one that they're seeing in the current job market was the idea of the Great Resignation. So you really couldn't turn on the news without hearing about the Great Resignation and the number of individuals leaving their jobs. Above and beyond, I think individuals realizing that they could be very productive working from home, I think having gone through this, they just weren't interested going back into the same environment that they were accustomed to pre-COVID. The second challenge is culture, which has been another driving force. So according to a Glassdoor survey, the number one reason people leave their jobs is company culture. So every time there's a change, it's going to impact that company culture. When there's a shakeup, that's really going to erode culture and put people at a disadvantage, having to really reinvent themselves in their roles again. That same report also highlighted that there is a challenge with not only redefining company culture, but really creating a culture that's going to ignite focus and passion in its leaders and employees. Challenge number 3, which is unfortunate, but that's ageism. And although ageism in the workforce isn't often talked about, it truly does affect many older adults in the job market. Companies are really not wanting to pay or employ the people that have experienced everything with them. And sadly, they don't always value that experience or what they bring to the table anymore. So as an organization flattens, they're getting rid of really great individuals to reduce costs. And then challenge number 4 is something that we refer to as the battered career and investor syndrome. So this is not the first time that we've gone through some major shifts. And very few employed have gotten by unscarred. And frankly, they're just tired of going through those shakeups over and over again. And they really want more for themselves, for their families, and most importantly, for their future as well. Okay. So I just spoke a little bit about COVID-19, and that was the first time I had gone through something like that here at TES. But what I do know is prior to that, TES weathered other events, things like the dot-com crash, the 2008 Great Recession, and I'm sure TES has seen quite a few other shifts over its almost 40 years in business. But what I also do know is COVID is not going to be the last crisis that we see as an organization either. So what does seem to happen is each time we go through a crisis, the majority of these powerful and big corporations cut the people who helped move their companies forward and relied on them and gave the bulk of the profits to its shareholders. So I just want to talk through a couple of those stats that you see there on the screen. So 86% of American workers work 50 plus hours every week for less money than they would have had earned in 1980. In 1980, the head of the household worker needed 34 weeks of income to pay for housing, healthcare, transportation, and education for their family. By 2022, it had actually increased to 57 weeks. 50% of the American workers over the age of 55 have no retirement savings and have this plan to just work until they die. And it's actually not working out that well because nearly 56% of current retirees had to retire earlier than expected just due to health issues, job loss, or having to care for a loved one in their family. And so what's the impact that's having on our health? So illnesses from work-related stress cause 120,000 deaths every year. Now, those are some really disheartening numbers, but something that gives me a little bit of hope and surely a ton of excitement is just the franchise community and what we could do for so many of these individuals. So the projected growth is really, really exciting, and there's truly never been a better time to be part of franchising. And I'm sure most of you have seen this or read through this, but here's what the most recent economic outlook report is projecting for our industry. So franchise establishments are set to grow at a rate of 1.9% to 805,000 franchise establishments in 2023. Franchise employment is forecasted to add approximately 254,000 jobs in the U.S., with the hiring of 8.7 million workers by the end of this year. Overall, franchise businesses will contribute $860 billion of economic output into the U.S. economy in 2023. And I do believe that the number one vehicle to go from employment into business ownership is through the franchise model, right? It's a proven, replicatable system and such a great vehicle for individuals to really take ownership over their professional life. So as franchisors, I think it's evident there's a tremendous amount of opportunity coming our way, but where do we start, right? How do we get started with that? So Suze, I'm going to hand it back over to you if you want to talk just a little bit more about where to get started and how do we move forward from here.
Absolutely. So how exciting is this, right? Think about it. Think about all the things that we just talked about. Number one, people are more empowered than ever, right? Hey, everybody, go home. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to have a job. Hey, everybody, come back to work. And people are saying, you know what? I'm kind of smart. I think I want to take ownership. I'm not trusting the job market anymore, right? So there's this huge appetite, this growing market for people who want to be self-sufficient. Huge market. If you look at the growth of franchising, if you look at the sector growth, there has truly never been a better time to be part of this amazing world of franchising. And I will tell you, with the Entrepreneur Source, our numbers show it. I used to tell people that 2020 was the best year in the history of our company because of this massive market. But guess what? 2021 exceeded that, 2022 exceeded that. And if you could see our numbers for Q1 of 2023, it just gets me even more exciting. But again, what is the number one vehicle today to go from the job market to self-sufficiency? That market is franchising. It's a proven, replicatable, duplicatable system that the franchisor is going to provide me everything that I need to be successful so that I can reach my income, my lifestyle, and my long-term goals. But the way that we approach this market has to be different, right? It's not about the old feature and benefit sell. So what you need to really start thinking about is, how are you going to get your candidates to really envision themselves that your vehicle is the right vehicle to meet those goals? And how do you tell that story? How do you build that building block approach? And again, always starting with your client's why. And Marissa, if you want to turn the slide, it's really about going from that sales mindset to the why mindset, right? So here's the deal. In the world of franchising, there is about 75% of the adult population that has a desire to be self-sufficient. Now, that in no way, shape, or form means that 75% of the adult population will own or buy a business or a franchise. But those are the folks that have said, I hate my job. I can't believe I just got laid off again. Wow, I've made a lot of money for other people. I'm ready to invest in myself. And those are the folks that are really open to learning about your brand. And frankly, out of that 75%, only a really tiny sliver of the pie, about 5%, are the ready, willing, and able. The ones that say, I've got the money, I'm going to buy a franchise. As soon as I find the right one, I'm going to go. And in the old school feature and benefit selling tactics, it requires high pressure tactics. It's more focused on the company's goals than the client's goals. It's very fear inducing. And frankly, 97% of people believe sales reps to be untrustworthy. And that is not fun. That is not going to create a healthy franchise organization. So what you want to do is really start to shift your mindset to the why mindset. You know what? This is going to be a win-win. We're going to create the safe space. We're going to build upon your knowledge. We're going to move as quickly or as slowly as makes sense for you so that we can give you the education, the awareness that you need, and then you can make a good decision on if our brand is going to meet your income, your lifestyle, and your long-term goals. So it's really starting with your client's why. So, where should we do that? We've got to meet our clients where they're at. And Marissa, if you want to shift that over a little bit. So some things that you want to be able to ask yourself is that first interaction is key. You really want to allow your clients and your candidates to feel like they're in control of the schedule. We're going to work at their pace. We're okay to address fears and anxieties because, buying a business is scary. We want to address that and we want to understand what those are. You have to adapt your communication style, right? If you've got a client that requires a lot of detail, slow it down. Make sure you're answering those questions. If you got somebody that, is an early adapter and can't wait to get going, speed it up a little bit. Make sure that you're keeping them engaged, but you've got to adapt your style to your client. You want to educate and connect. Be very deliberate in your experience. You control the awards experience, not them. I have clients all the time that'll say, well, Susan, just give me your FDD. I want to look at it. And I'll say, you know what? I would love to give you our franchise disclosure document, but we've got some things that we need to complete first, because I want to make sure you've got a great understanding of our brand and what we provide before I send you that document. And so we can speed it up a little bit if you'd like, but make sure you control and be very deliberate in that awards experience. And really use all of your tools and resources. Make sure you're bringing in different personalities. You can use video, technology, things to really have that building block approach, panel calls, different things. So really be able to meet your clients where they're at. Marissa, if you want to switch it over, again, make sure they know that this is a safe space and that you're going to allow your client to really envision them that this is the brand, your brand is the vehicle that is going to help them achieve their income, their lifestyle, and their long-term goals, and really create that awards experience. So one of the things that we are going to provide, and Marissa, I'll let you kind of go through this, is the first thing you want to do is really think about your brand. And really think about what are your differentiators. And we're going to be posting this worksheet as something that you can use, as something to kind of think about after this call. And are you really differentiating your brand from everybody else? Because when you start there, you can really build upon that awards experience. So this worksheet is a great way to do this. And some of the things, some examples as you're kind of thinking about what your differentiators are. I work with, franchise brands all the time, and I will ask this question. And I'll give you some examples. I was working with they were a drug screening franchise. And I said, what are your differentiators? What makes you pop off the page? And they said, oh, wow, our collection cups are great. And, the way that we process the specimens, and they really talked about the how they did it. Well, you know what? That's really not that exciting to somebody that's looking at a brand. So we continued to go a little bit deeper. Well, tell me more. And what we found out is what they do to, for the community, that they offer free drug testing to schools in the local areas to help with drug screenings for students, for parents that would like to have that service available. What a great thing to be able to offer to the community. Those are things that people can emotionally connect with. So when you're thinking about what your differentiators are, don't think about your brand of paint. Don't think about your collection cup. Don't think about the how. Think about why people would look at your brand and say, wow, that really pops off the page, because that is different than what all of my other competitors are doing. And when you can build off that, I think what you're going to find is you're not going to get stuck in that commoditization trap. You're really going to be able to build some of those differentiators. So I'm going to take a breath here. Marissa, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, you summed it up perfectly. I did just upload the PDF into the chat. So this same document here, it's just a quick, fun exercise to get you thinking about those differentiators and putting them down into a simple worksheet. So you'll see that added into the chat. All right. So I do see a couple questions coming in, Suze. If you're ready to wrap it up, and Lauren, I'm actually happy to go through a couple of the questions on my own here. Suze, what do you think? You want to start move into?
Yeah, let's do some Q&A.
Okay, cool. All right, so here was one which says, on our research, how important are franchisee validators to prospects and any new insights?
That is a great question. It's really interesting. It's actually easier to build an emerging brand with no franchisees than a mature brand with unhappy franchisees. So validation really becomes very important. What we have found is creating a panel discussion has worked extraordinarily well. Bringing, and the way we do it is we bring a newer franchisee that's fresh out of training, excited, really has had this great onboarding experience, still in love, right? And we'd love to have those folks on, along with somebody that's been doing this for, 3 years, or maybe even a rock star. You want to get different perspectives. Q&A panels are great because it really kind of gives that 30,000 foot overview, but validation, people are going to validate your brand. So you've got to create a way that they can get the information that they're looking for. And I even allow, I'll even say, look, you probably want to talk to somebody that ramped up slow and somebody that ramped up fast. Why would I want them to talk to somebody that ramped up slow? Because I want them to understand what they might do differently if they were to do it over again. And as long as you're providing that training and support, we find that to be great. Marissa, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
No, I think that's right on point. Another question that just came in, more of an ask, if you will, but someone just asked if we'll be sharing the deck. I'm happy to share the deck with anyone that would want a copy of it. I'm going to put my email in the chat. I'll clean up my notes and everything from this deck, and then shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to send you the cleanup version. Not a problem. Any other questions, please feel free to enter it into the chat. All right, let's see. So here's another question. Rise on interest rates and potential market crash is having an effect with us. Do you see any?
Yeah, that is a really great question. One of the things that we do for our clients, and you have to remember, we work with about 230 different franchise brands, and there are lots of different ways to fund a business. And really depending on the investment level that you're looking at, what we're seeing is certainly a shift from interest rate based loans into shifting investments such as 401ks or investment accounts from a reactive investment, which is very much predicated on the market, and they're actually getting excited about shifting those resources into a proactive investment that they can control, which is business ownership. Again, we talk a lot about, look, clearly my crystal ball was broken when COVID-19 hit. If you would have told me in January of 2020 that by St. Patrick's Day, the whole world was going to shut down, I would say, man, you guys are smoking some of that California weed. That would never happen. But it did, right? And what I can tell you is I don't know what the next crisis is going to be, but what I will tell you is there is absolutely going to be another one. So your candidates have to really understand there are lots of different ways to fund a business. And are you willing to invest in yourself and shift some of those reactive investments into proactive investments? And people are actually starting to get excited about that. But interest rates will continue to be problematic for those loan-based businesses.
Yeah. And to go along with that, Suze, I think the more proactive that you could be with education and just helping people see past those blinders of what they're hearing, on the news every day, we kind of go with the idea of taking the fear out of funding and doing different things to get that information out, whether it's through infographics or podcasts that we're doing or blog posts. So I think it's also important to be proactive with getting the content out there so that they see there's other resources besides what they're hearing day in and day out on the news and everywhere else, to be quite honest with you. But all right, few more questions rolling in. Are you seeing an increase of interest in franchising due to the number of layoffs from large corporations like that of Disney, Facebook, McDonald's, etc.?
Absolutely. We actually call it the Your Career Revolution. We actually have a book out that really talks about, the ups and downs of the job market. And people have not been through this cycle once. They've been through it over and over and over again, and they're tired of it. They're really looking to bust out of that mold. And we're really seeing some really positive impacts in the way of franchising where they're saying, yeah, you know what? I could go back to the job, but frankly, I'm just not real excited about it and I don't trust it. Here's the deal. I mean, I'm going to again tell you another one of my little secrets. I mean, I'm a 58-year-old woman. I don't even know if I'm employable anymore due to ageism. People are not valuing the experience, and nor do they want to pay the price that a lot of these executives are coming out of, and they're scratching their head going, wow, I just gave I gave a lot into this company and wow, they just downsized and here's where I'm at. So again, the appetite to not go back into the job market is huge. And we really do a lot of education on the Your Career Revolution. And we give these people permission to invest some time into themselves to look at other possibilities outside of the job market. It's a huge market right now.
Yeah. This is a great one from Mike. I love this one. So have you seen bringing in non-FD members like CEOs, CFOs, ops training, et cetera, into the early stages of the sales and info process as a viable tactic in presenting your differentiators of your brand?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really depends on the awards experience that you put together. So, and I'll tell you what we do that works really well is we start with kind of an intro, 30,000 foot overview. If we create interest and they want to go to that next layer of the onion, then we kind of go into marketing, training, support. If that excites them, they go to a panel call, they talk to some of our franchisees. If that works out well, we talk about specifics they'd want to look at. We do some one-on-one validation. Then we give them the franchise disclosure document. And then once they get through that, we do what we call a meet the team day. This is where they meet the team. And again, we're not asking them to make a decision. It's not a signing event. But hey, we want you to meet the people. We want you to meet our CEO. We want you to meet our trainers. We want you to meet our marketing folks, these folks that are going to be with you side by side building this business. And at the end, we're going to ask you if you'd like to be considered for a franchise. And that doesn't mean you've made a decision. That means you'd like the awards committee to consider you for a franchise. We then have them fill out a post questionnaire. The committee meets, and then we decide together if these folks would like to be, a good franchisee for our system. And guess what? We don't award, again, we're very, very, very particular about who we award to, and they know that going into that. So it really creates a win-win. Really depends on your brand, though. We love to tell our founder's story. Our founder has an amazing story about how the organization was created. We tell that story on the very first session and kind of really get those foundational components going as well.
Okay, I think we're running a few minutes over the half hour, but I'm going to take one more question. This is from Jennifer, another really great question. So what do you recommend to market and educate for the brand online and social media and websites versus your introduction calls in the beginning to really help with that coaching mindset?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that we do is when we first start working with a candidate, we have a blog that we update. We update it with articles, links, but it's not about, hey, look how cool our brand is. It really goes into the mindset of the why of why you want to be open to really understanding what your goals are, and are you open to looking at a fit for you, and could we be the right vehicle? So we post all kinds of educational content. I would suggest using an educational based marketing strategy. People are looking for value. If you feel like your content is really pitching, hey, look how great it is and get the territory before it runs out, you're probably using a sales process, right? And you're probably going to be looking for a needle in a haystack. Broaden your messaging and really start to use blogs, LinkedIn. We're big LinkedIn people. We love social media. But again, if you look at our posts on social media, they're very inspirational, right? It's not a features and sales mindset. We're not saying, hey, buy our franchise. Look how cool it is. You need to buy a franchise. The more we use the F word, the fewer people that we engage, right? We don't want to use the word franchise. We really want to talk about finding that right vehicle to really build that next career for you. And could this possibly be that vehicle? That's why it's super important to really understand what those differentiators are. Great question.
Yeah. Awesome. So Lauren, I'll hand it back over to you. I just saw that you unmuted yourself, but before we jump, I just wanted to really thank everyone for taking a half hour out of their day to spend some time with us. Again, I put my email in the chat, so if you do want a copy of the deck, or if you have any lingering questions after today, shoot them over and we'll be happy to follow up from here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marissa and Susan. This was excellent content and excellent feedback from all of you. We really do appreciate it. Again, this webinar was recorded and along with the presentation deck will appear on our website early this evening. You'll be able to find that at community.franchise.org. Thank you very much again to Marissa, Susan, and the Entrepreneur Source team. And again, thank you to everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day and stay safe and healthy. Bye.
Awesome. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.